Hi everyone, I wanted to show you the little model house I made out of a pop bottle. I did it ages ago. It was an old tutorial on how to make a fairy house or a spooky house using a pop bottle and sculpting on top of it. I'll include the link for the first part in the cards and in the description. So yeah, I finally got around to painting it. I've had it on my desk for months. Just it's been pushed to the back because of other projects. So finally got a chance to do it. So what I did is coated it in a layer of black acrylic paint first, and then put a little bit of red on the door. And then after the black paint had dried, it was just a series of different shades of browns and greys that I dry brushed onto the house to make the features and the textures stand out a bit more. So at first I put a layer of brown over the top, and I darkened the door at that stage because it came out a bit pink, the door did. One tip as well is keep a wet spare brush to hand, because if you get the paint on the windows, if you use a wet paintbrush, you can wipe it off straight away before it has a chance to stick. Otherwise you just have to scratch it off. Because it's the plastic bottle showing through, it comes off really easy. But to make life easier, a wet paintbrush just wipes it off like a little, or a baby wipe. So then what I did was I mixed some yellow ochre and brown and white together to give me this like really pale brown colour, which looks really light on my little palette plate thing. But then because the black's in the background on the house, it's still quite dark. But as you can see, as I'm brushing it on with my like chip brush, apart from that bit where I smudged it a bit, I'll fix that after. But you can really see how it brings out all those lovely textures in the clay. I didn't smooth the clay at all. I kept the textures of the clay because I wanted to give it that sort of old mud stone type of texture, and basically that just occurred naturally as I'm manipulating the clay and creating the model. If you get a patch like me where it seems to be just like a solid blob of colour because you haven't really dry brushed it properly, like because you've pressed too hard with the brush or there's too much paint on the brush, all you do is put a bit of black on the brush and go back over it, and it blends it all back in, which is what I'd done to tone that down a bit. But you can see all those lovely textures coming through. I'm adding a bit of grey, and basically the highest points, the points which would catch the most light, are the ones that I put the palest colour on. The door I kind of messed up, but then I went back and fixed it with a bit of black and stuff later on. It came out a bit too red, and I kind of lost the details in the grain of the wood on the door. For the underneath of the toadstool roof, I used like a nice grey and used that to bring out all those shapes and to show all that texture, but at the same time I didn't completely cover it. I just dry brushed it on, so I still had all the dark black in all the little grooves and everything, so you still get that texture. Then for the roof I decided to go with the good old red topped toadstool type colour. So I got a bit of a crimson red and mixed it with a bit of brown, and I basically used different shades of it, getting lighter each time as I applied it, and dry brushed that on, mixed the brown and the red together to give me a nice shade, because the colour I've got, the red, is a bit too bright and it comes out like a bit weird at first. Then I decided to paint the windowsill, the door frame and the window frames with that red, but I changed my mind later and covered that in black again. It was just me just seeing if I wanted to do that, if I wanted it to be painted. Then I decided no, I preferred the older sort of more worn look for the house, and so I went back with grey over the top, black and grey, just to fix that and take that red off. That's brought it back to basically the same sort of colour as the house, and then I've added little bits of brown and stuff here and there on the house. It's kind of as if it's been painted in the past and the paint's wore off. Like, I wanted it to look quite old, and it's basically like a sort of spooky fairy house that I've made. I'm thinking of making a few of these and making like a little scene with them, like a little diorama with them. And then all I did was I used some hot glue and glued in the set of like micro fairy lights, you know, those little micro LED fairy lights, which is what you can see here. And then I'm just going through with my little nail art tool just to scratch off any remaining paint. The paint that I couldn't get off was because it's underneath the hot glue, but never mind. So as you can see, that creates like a nice sort of old kind of spooky fairy house. You could add some black silhouettes in the windows if you wanted it to look really creepy. So yeah, hope you enjoyed my video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.